Tes 1, 2, 3. Apakah suara saya terdengar?
Dengar Ibu.
Oh ya, terima kasih. Hello, Prof Usman.
Assalamualaikum, Dina. Can you hear me?
Yes. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Would you check if the share screen work or not? Can we start now, Professor Usman?
Just give me 1 second. I'm checking the screen share.
Okay.
I think. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay.
I can see your screen. Okay. Okay. Let's start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Waalaikumsalam.
Good morning to our honorable guest, Professor Usman Iqbal, and all of my students. Welcome to Health Information System course. My name is Dina. It is my pleasure to be a moderator for this session. And I'm glad to welcome Professor Usman Iqbal from Taipei Medical University, who will present why the standard and data quality are important for healthcare improvement. First of all, may I briefly introduce to you our guest lecturer, Professor Usman Iqbal, graduated with a PhD degree in biomedical informatics from Taipei Medical University. He is associate professor in master and PhD program in Global Health Department, College of Public Health, Taipei Medical University. And he is digital health consultant and principal investigator in health information technology. Professor Usman Iqbal also got many scholarship and research publication award. He got Australian Distinguished Talent Award in 2019 and also Plum Blossom Card from Taiwan. Professor Usman Iqbal has more than 100 academic publications and associate editor in some prestigious journal. And now, please welcome our special guest, Professor Usman Iqbal. The present time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Dina, and Assalamu alaikum, all students. It's really my great pleasure to talk to you. Today, we are going to talk about the standards in healthcare and why it is important. So I will start talking throughout the presentation, but if you feel any question in the middle, please feel free to stop me or send a text in the chat. Can you able to see my slides, or I need to reshare again, right?
I think you need to reshare again.
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
So now everyone can see my slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So today we are going to talk about why the standards and data quality improvement for healthcare improvement is important. my introduction, Dr. Dina has already given that I've been in Taipei American University before, and I moved to Australia, and I'm working here, in the digital health field as well. And also part of that, I'm also involved in some journals. So today in the talk, we are going to talk about, this is the agenda, like why data and standards are important. And I think this is a very important topic nowadays in different countries where there are so many digital health initiatives are going on, but they are not really considering the standardization of the data and how it impacts on the quality improvement and patient safety, and why Taiwan is in healthcare artificial intelligence as well, and what are the challenges and opportunities, and how the digital health is reshaping the care models in future. So big data, nowadays a lot of data is coming from several channels. So some of them, you have been using the Google, Uber, Facebook, Amazon. A lot of information is available on the social media, right? And the Facebook only, if you just consider only Facebook, you can imagine how much information from Facebook, because we put a lot of pictures on Facebook. We have a lot of videos on Facebook. People share a lot of comments on the Facebook. And also now the Facebook also have the other social media apps under them, for example, WhatsApp and Instagram as well. So you can imagine that how much information they are collecting every day. So this information, when all together become like a data, is in big quantity, we call big data. And people used to call that before the oil is, the main important thing. But nowadays people are talking about the data is the main important thing. So the big data is kind of a new oil and the black gold of 21st century. And which is important. You can see a lot of people now talking about the data. Sometimes some company, they are worried about their data security. Sometimes the data is just breached and, the cyber attacks happen too. So just giving you a little bit more detail, what is exactly the big data? Big data is, you can see, it's a collection of data set, which is large and complex, and it becomes difficult to process using just the, the manual or on-hand database management tools. So in the traditional data processing applications. So when there's a data, you can see some multidimensional and different geographical and temporal as well. So it's all mixed together, and then you sort it out into the different, there is a picture, you can see that in a different colors, something similar. And then you arrange them to make something meaningful out of that data. And then if you present them very well, then it looks nicer. And then you can come up with something very nice. And you can see that there's a story of that too, which is interesting. Then, because when we have a data, we also have, different advanced tools. When I mentioned that we can't use the normal traditional tools. So what is tools are artificial intelligence. So what is artificial intelligence actually is, artificial intelligence is the term which is applied when the machine mimics the cognitive functions that human associate with other human minds, such as learning and problem solving. So machines try to do something, like using the power and generating some automatic kind of, algorithms to do some decisions. And that has more precision as well. And nowadays, this is a recent snapshot from the Gartner conference in 2022. And you can see that the Gartner is a big conference, and they were saying that they always share data to drive the business value. Because if everyone keep their own data information, we don't know what is exactly they have, right? So we can't do anything more. So it is very important to share the data. But how we are going to share the data and in which way, this is also very important. So we need to understand that we need to share data within the proper settings, means in a safe and secure setting. So whom you should share, whom you shouldn't share. So you need to have those relationships as well with the stakeholders. So data share does not mean that you can just share with anyone. It just means that if you are allowed to share data for researchers and it's identified data or anonymous data, then you are, you should be sharing data because it helps to improve your business value. This is a picture from the Australian government data system, and I'm sure the different government also have the similar kind of, this is from the text perspective. You can see that taxation department have so many other departments information together, linked together. So it's like, you know, you can see it's all jingled together. So information. So how much information they are pulling from the different stakeholders. What are the more sensitivities, you know, like regarding you know, the different stages of the data lifecycle? So you can see that the sensitivity about the data itself is the concerns people have more about the personal information. And then they have concern about the uniquely identified individuals, like if you can identify them individually. And then there are concerns about the sensitive subjects which are captured in the data. For example, like people, you know, cultural, subjective often, or maybe the religion and these kind of things. And concerns about the data quality is like about the accuracy, timeliness, completeness, and consistency. And concerns about the fit for purpose, you know, for the data analysis. And then there's also the sensitivities about the capability and governance as well, with the concerns that, you know, context and capture with data. For example, like there's a metadata provenance and consent. And sometimes there's an authority to share the data for analysis. And then there's a poor governance where you can't control. And, you know, sometimes there's an accidental release of the data as well. So all these kind of things are kind of the sensitivities where, you know, the data lifecycle, which are sometimes a barrier. But it also has the use of insights, things, for example, like the concern about level of confidence, how much you can able to rely on the information too. That is also important. This is the Australian, you know, the framework they shared, the clinical services. It's Australian Computer Science Society. They share this one, the white paper they published, and in this one they actually propose a framework, which is means like how you can share the data within the same safe framework. So there's a 5 safes actually. And in the 5 safes, you can see from the picture, they mention about the safe project, safe people, safe setting, safe data, and safe output. So if you have a safe project, means is this use of the data appropriate? Because you want to share with the data with the appropriate people who understand the data or the value of the information. And also the safe people. So of course, you are not going to share with the random people, the one who are authorized. And the settings means, is it the safe, comfortable situation and the settings and the data? Is it the, you know, shareable information, or is it too much, you know, individualized or personalized information? And the safe output as well. And the data quality requirements are dependent on use as well. So the data quality framework is composed of 5 dimensions of data quality. They say availability, usability, reliability, relevance, and presentation of the quality. And this quality framework actually further composed of, you know, the dimensions. So for example, availability means accessibility, timeliness, and authorization. And usability means definition, documentation, credibility, and metadata. When it comes to reliability, then there's the accuracy, integrity, consistency, completeness, and auditability as well. For relevance is fitness, and presentation quality, which is readability and structure as well. So first 4 quality dimensions are, you know, indispensable because, you know, they are very, very important. So core. The last presentation could be flexible because everybody wants to see in a different way. So you can present the, you know, the data in a different way. That's a presentation. But the availability, usability, reliability, and relevance is very important. So you can't disregard them. When it comes to data quality improvement, and then this is also from Gartner, they provided 12 actions to improve your data quality. So first you have to focus on the right things to set strong foundations. And then you have to define fit for purpose, so data quality, and take actions to achieve and correct it. And then assign business accountability for the data quality. And then embed the data quality improvement into organizational culture. So what are the benefits actually about, you know, the importance of the data quality in healthcare? First thing is, you know, you can do the more informed decision making. The more accurate information you have, the better decision you will able to make. Of course, because, you know, you need to have accurate information if you want to make a good decision. The better patient targeting. So you want to have accurate and precise data, means, you know, the marketers know exactly what they are looking for instead of targeting, you know, the different kind of people. and improve patient and physician relationship. So if you have a good information, then you can able to improve the relationship. So better relations with your customers, and because you're in healthcare, patients are the customers. So they are the key to success for healthcare facilities. And easier data implementation. So compared with the poor quality data, it is much easier to use high quality data, increasing efficiency throughout the organization. So Australia just released this news. National healthcare standards they are going to release. So the Australian Digital Health Agency is going to release the National Healthcare Interoperability Plan. And it's a standards catalog. And why they're saying is the national one is because the different regions, different states, they want all the information to be, at least able to be in a standardized format, the data, so they can able to, if in case they need to share, it should be shareable. So digital health standards, this is an example from the Victoria state in Australia. They have developed the digital health standards and guidelines already. And you can see that the digital health standards are for something particular settings. For example, if there are virtual care standards and guides, the virtual care models, how they should be. And then there's a digital design and unified implementation guide. And then there is an e-referral standard, means you can have the e-referral system, then what are the standards should be following that. And the reason is because sometimes you use different companies, different vendors, different softwares. But of course, you want to have the standardized information as well. So that's why you want to have the standards. So no matter what different vendor or company you are using, the standards are same. It's the same example, like you all are using the different mobile phones, maybe different companies' mobile phone, but you are having the same mobile applications like WhatsApp, right? So no matter someone is using iPhone or someone is using, the Samsung, but you can able to communicate through the WhatsApp to download the app. So, which is important. And typology for critical and emerging technologies. This is also the digital data and digital standards landscape published in Australia in July 2022. You can see here they're trying to explain that what are the fundamentals and principles and the tech. So for example, the fundamentals are data sharing, use, and management, and the principles are trustworthiness, cybersecurity, privacy, and interoperability. And then from technology perspective, there's the artificial intelligence is there. There are people talking about the smart cities. There are Internet of Things. There's a digital twin. There's a 5G, and there's a quantum. So all these informations, the data capture systems and softwares have to be standardized to capture the standard information. So data and digital standards landscape in Australia, the Standards Australia is, the non-government, non-for-profit standard organization, which help to develop these standards. And it's a volunteer work and it's a volunteer document as well, but they work with the different stakeholders nationally and internationally as well. And how usually they develop, the adoption of international standards, and they, like developed by ISO, IEC, and the International Telecommunication Union and other organizations as well. So they work together to develop the standards. There are 6 main stages of the standards development. So for example, there's a project proposal. So for example, if you want to develop something specific data standards, let's say on the telemedicine for some specific, particular major. So then you have to develop a project proposal, then project kickoff, then there's a drafting, public comments, and then there's a ballot and publication. So this is, I'm talking about the Australian process, that how usually they develop the standard. So you can see that this is not just one person or one team work, it's like a multidisciplinary work. So for example, if a team developed already, then they keep it out for the market for people to provide a comment and feedback as well. Then developing international standards for AI. There is a foundational, there are different working groups. So you can see here the working group 1, there's a working group 3, and there's a working group 2. So for example, working group 1 is working on the foundational standards, AI and management systems. Working group 2 is only focusing on the data, like data quality for analytics or machine learning, and also the data framework. And trustworthiness is about more about the risk management or any bias in the system. So, like our functionality or assessment of the robustness of the neural networks. When developing a standard for AI, you can see here, this is the one developed model in Australia. So this is the AI management system as a pathway to certification. So whoever is working in the AI, because nowadays we saw that a lot of models coming with the AI technology, we need to be, careful that how generalizable those models are. So if we have the standard data, then we can able to build something on that. Then it's a more generalizable to test and validate as well that how robust these models are. So for example, there is a 5 standards already published and 21 standards are under development for the AI. So these are different. This is the artificial intelligence assurance framework developed also in New South Wales state in Australia. And you can see that this aligning standard with the New South Wales AI strategy. What the strategy for the artificial intelligence in New South Wales is, you can see there, there are different blocks. There's a public trust, there's a digital uplift, there's a data capabilities, there's the innovation and collaboration, and there's a procurement as well. And then AI assurance framework is also, like there's a data, there's the model, and the organizational governance as well. So AI management system provides a pathway for the future certification of the trustworthy actors. So this is very important. You can see here, the different subgroups then here too. I think I saw her hand raised. Is anyone have any question? Does anyone have any question?
I think not yet. If you have any question,
Okay.
you can put in the chat box also.
Yep.
For all the students.
Thank you. So next thing is co-design and community benefit. Why I'm talking about co-design and community benefit is also, this is also the document released here in Australia, a guide to build co-design capability. Because most of the time, the digital solutions are, developed in silos, means the individuality, and not everyone is involved. So if some solutions we're developing for patients, then the patient involvement is important because they are the one who are users. And the same thing is if we are developing some solutions for nurse or maybe doctor or some other clinicians. So it is very important to involve every stakeholders to be part of the design of the solution. So it means that when we develop a solution, they are the one who are users, so they can able to provide the best feedback on that. So we need to be very open and respect everyone and empower them and collaborate on that too. So that's why nowadays people are also talking about the co-designing, because the solutions, the digital, it has to be more and more, personalized. There are 3 key aspects for interoperability as well. There is a technology, relationship, and enabling environment. So interoperability is more than technology. When we call about interoperability, it's not just about technology that, this system is not talking to this system or we cannot exchange the information from this. This is also about the relationship and also about the environment. Sometimes the systems can talk to each other, but just the people don't want to share the information. So one hospital to another hospital, they just don't want to share the information. So that's another challenge as well. So that's why, this particular report from published in UK in September 2022 recently mentioned that interoperability is actually technology, relationship, and enabling the environment as well. Like even the 2 systems can talk to each other when you need people to encourage them to, they can take an initiative to make it happen. So let's move to Taiwan Health IT infrastructure. You might have some understanding of the Taiwan healthcare infrastructure is that the Taiwan insured 99.9% population with the health insurance. So everyone is insured. Whoever is going to stay more than 3 months in Taiwan must need to get insured in their national health insurance system. All the information from the public, where no matter they are visiting any small hospital or big hospital, the information will be going to the government in the National Health Insurance Department. And from there, you can see that there's a 23 million population. And whenever they're visiting any hospital, the information is going back to, in National Health Insurance. And also the hospital is sending information too. So it's like a triangle. But at the same time, some people also use the My Health Bank, because the hospital also use the My Health Bank. This is a cloud-based system as well. So the people can access their information too. So because it's patient's information, so they have a right to access their information too. So that's why they can also do the access through My Health Bank. And that de-identified data, or we call anonymous data, is also released for researchers based on the request with that proper ethical approval as well. So this is very important, because all the information when going back to National Health Insurance, and also to do the quality check, and also releasing for researchers, which can help to improve the outcomes as well. So Taiwan have very active industry and academic collaboration, and also has one of the most high performance healthcare system in the world. And each single patient have at least 15 visits per year per person. And the data, when it comes to data quality, the physicians or the nurses, they key in the disease course by themselves and the drug course in the system. So there are no coders involved. So you imagine the doctor who know about the disease or the drug more, they code in the system by themselves. So when they code in the system by themselves, it means they are the one who have the more knowledge, and there are no middle coders involved. So you can rely on the information. So there is an electronic prescription, which is accurate. And there's a 23 million population, so you can imagine how much information the electronic health record and there's a very standard coding and data scheming. So that when I talk to the data standards, they have very good structure for that. So then it motivates Taiwan and TMU to do this work. So because the providers, they need to provide care to the patients, and their electronic health records, and then there's electronic health records provide an opportunity for the biomedical research. And then there's a regional and national registries as well. And then you can see the standards for prevention and treatment can be developed through research, the data we're collecting through EHR, and then we can able to create some protocols, guidelines, and education material, and then make the information decision support system or physician order entry systems as well. So, and this leads back to the improving the patient care, actually, to provide more better care. When we were collecting the data, we also do different projects. So this is one of the projects I'm going to share. It's called Advanced Safety, Electronic Safety of Prescriptions. And you can see here the diagram. You can assume this is like a prescription. So in this figure, you can see the D1, D2, D3 is like 3 diseases. So one patient may have 3 diseases, and M1, M2, and M5 is like the drugs. So you can imagine maybe this particular patient have 3 diseases, 3 diagnoses, and 5 medications. And you can see when we run the probability model and we try to match and see that, we use the 23 million individuals patient data, which is 103.5 million prescriptions only for 1 year, 2022. So you can imagine that, how much information it is, and we build the data. And then we move to advance this system, and we use the machine learning, because when there's a huge amount of data, you can't do with the manual traditional way. So the machine learned from the doctor's behavior. And what is the purpose of this one is to detect this appropriate or inappropriate prescription. Means if there's a drug alert, or if this is not suitable for that particular patient with the age, or someone is pregnant and this should not be indicated. So this is based on that. And we've managed to publish into 2 international journals as well. When you have a data, also because sometimes some people are not very good with the numbers, so they want to see the visualization. So this is the kind of, you can see the colorful picture, which shows when we have the information. So we use the 1 million data of Taiwan health insurance, and from 1998 to 2011. And we try to see that the pre-CKD, CKD is chronic kidney disease, and the post-CKD. And most of you might be aware that when someone has a CKD, they have to go through the several treatments or hemodialysis, or the peritoneal dialysis, or there's sometimes renal transplantation also needed. And sometimes patient may be stable after that, and sometimes the patient might die. So this will help to tell that the patient with this particular comorbid diseases have how much likely chances for which particular treatment is most suitable, and if the patient is going to be stable and stuff. So this is based on the data. You can see that this diagram, we use the Sankey diagram, which was used in the engineering, and we try to use in the healthcare system. So here you can see when you click on this one, you can see the different colors, and we show that this particular patient, what is more likely the outcome of the patient with particular diseases. So it is very interesting to see with that. And this is a tool online available too. And we publish in 2 international journals as well. So we also have image data, right? Nowadays, people talk about the image data too. So this is a MolMe project. It's also very interesting that most of time, like in Australia, there's skin cancer is very common because of the UV and exposure in the sunlight. So most of time, we don't know exactly if this melanoma is or it's just a normal mole. So and sometimes the healthcare, the consultation is very expensive. So we developed this app, and if someone have any a doubt, so they can take a picture of their mole, and then the app will tell them whether they have a risk of melanoma, whether they need to see a doctor, or they are fine. And this app has 90% accuracy, and you can see that we use the 3,000 plus patients, and 4 dermatologists tested this system as well. Besides that, we have done some research also on people using long-term, some drugs for treating one disease, but ending up getting another disease. So one of the example is a benzodiazepine, which are used for anxiety or depression, but then patients were having ending up having the cancer. And sometimes they don't understand that this is because of the drug or because of the something automatically naturally happening. What we did based on this large cohort data, we tried to build some model and to do some research studies, and we identified that this is because of the drugs, because sometimes some drugs have carcinogenic effect for particular cancers. But it does not mean that all the drugs have carcinogenic effect. Some drugs could have mutagenic effect too. So there's another study we published called "Does Aspirin Reduce the Risk for Cancer?" And in this study, you can see that the aspirin was helping to reduce the colon cancer, which is interesting. People have to take the anti-cancer drugs and have to go through a very hard time. But there are some drugs already where we can do some repositioning of the drugs, so we can understand that whether these drugs are helpful in reducing their cancer risk. And we also use the observational health data, the one national health insurance data, to check the policy implication in healthcare. So the physician antibiotic prescribing behavior in Taiwan, what was happening that the physicians can prescribe the antibiotics without having the blood test positive if they suspect that this patient have infection, but they just suspect, there was no confirmation. But it was leading to their irrational use of the antibiotics, because if they prescribe antibiotics to everyone, then it was, the patient become resistant to the antibiotics. So what the government did, the policy implication is that they ensure that whenever the patient comes and have complained, the doctor must have the blood test, and that if the blood test findings comes positive, then they should prescribe the antibiotics. So without the blood test findings positive, they cannot. And we saw from the data, the trend is sudden drop after that policy implication, because the doctor, if they prescribe, they will get the fine from the government or the hospital. So, and it was interesting to see that, and we managed to publish in the top 2nd journal in the infectious diseases. When we talk about the observational data, then some of the researchers were saying that, it could be because the observational data. So how we can able to trust on these findings. Then we try to introduce a new methodology where we try to have the observational data and also the gene expression profiling data. And we try to compare the results to see that how the findings are consistent. And interestingly, that model worked very well, and we found the consistent findings together. This is interesting because if you go to the biomedical research and you have to do some experiments, it takes longer time to do the animal studies and stuff. So sometimes if you have the publicly available data like TCGA, or linked database, where you can able to see the drug signals and the genes expression data, then you can able to compare the information with the observational health data. This is one of our paper got media attention about the antidepressive drugs, hypnotic and sedatives, and the cancer risk. But the importance of these studies, the observational data study, is that one of the researchers from US, he filed a petition to FDA and asked FDA to revise the guidelines of the benzodiazepines. You can imagine that some of the drugs are in the market for 30 plus years or 40 years and never have happened to assess the guidelines that whether these drugs are safe or continue safe, or maybe there are any changes are required. But after there are so many studies were coming, and this petition were cited, two papers, our papers from our team in this petition, and they filed to FDA to ask to revise the guidelines. So which was an honor for us. So Taiwan joined the Observation Health Data Science and Informatics Consortium. This consortium started with 100 researchers in academics and industries sometimes, and what they're trying to encourage is to have the data sharing. You can see there that Taiwan is one of the small joined here too. So no matter different countries have different data format, what they're trying to introduce is they're having use a common data model. So if you have your data, you just need to map to the common data model. So your data is still staying with you and you're just sharing the results with them. So this is very good because if you're making one model or doing one research question or one study in one country, maybe the different population have the different outcomes, right? So how you can able to generalize the results is very difficult. So what you have to do is, if you run the same question in the different countries, then you can able to have the answer. You can see that, oh, maybe this particular drug maybe work on one particular country or region, but not working on another country or region. So we have done a couple of studies with them. So what I'm trying to say here is, when it comes to data standards, say you have to map the data into common data model, and then you can able to share the information. Many countries are now encouraged to do that, and they are trying to join this research network. So data may be different at different sites, and the sites often cannot share the data at the patient level. And of course, it could be in a different formats as well. So this OMOP, this Observational Medical Outcome Partnership vocabulary, so it has if the patient, the data is in a different format, for example, the drug code is RX norm, the conditions are in SNOMED, and the measurements of lab pathology report standardization is LINAC, and the procedures, the drug codes are ICD or, the other different codes. With this Odyssey consortium, we published the study called Application of a Common Data Model to rank the pediatric users and prescription prevalence of 15 different drug classes. So you can see in South Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, and Australia. So we did the same question. We just want to see that how these different countries, the neighboring countries, have the the pediatric drug users prevalence. And interestingly, we found that some of the countries have very close resemblance, like Japan and Taiwan. And the reason is because maybe the practice are same. Maybe the more the regions there is almost they require the same drug. Then we publish another study also with a big consortium here, uncovering exposures responsible for birth season disease effects. It's a global study, so you can see that it's a global studies. We can able to do the same question and work together with the different collaborators internationally to answer the question. This is also another study. It's called Analysis of Dual Combination of Therapies Used in Treatment of Hypertension in a Multinational Cohort. This is, like about the hypertension treatment. And we try to see that how the different countries, that these treatments works. And we also found the interesting findings from this study as well and published in the JAMA Open Network. This is another study we published with the consortium as well. It's called Multinational Investigation of Fracture Risk and with Antidepressant Use by Class Drug Indication. So we did this study with the Canada, US, UK, and Taiwan. And we found interesting findings that, sometimes the same drugs, because we want to see that, evaluate that if the drugs might have some risk in fracture, like antidepressants patients are using, and if this is only in a particular region or it's all other in the different regions as well. So it was interesting to see the findings too. When I was talking about the data, so there's a social media as is one of the key as well. So the social media, sometimes people, if they can't talk to someone, they release some frustration on the social media. This is interesting from our team. They published in the Lancer that the Facebook helped to change their healthcare those reforms in Taiwan. And this happened because one of the emergency group in Taiwan, their doctors and nurses, they were talking in a group that when there is a winter comes, there's so many flu cases happen, and all the flu patients usually come to the emergency instead of going to the normal clinics, and that makes the emergency more crowded. And then the doctors, they have difficulty to see which patients they want to see first. So this particular, so they were chatting on a Facebook group, and then they found that, so they found that, and then one of the doctors said that, or maybe clinicians, they said, what is the use of discussing here all these issues, because the Facebook group and we can't do anything. And then one of the minister, the office person comment on the particular Facebook comment and say that, we are watching every comment and it's not the useless post. And the next day, the minister visit the emergency and they check by himself that, how overcrowded it is. And then they change the regulations that no flu cases should be going to the, the emergency. And they put some other restrictions on that to redirect. So social media also have some misinformation. Sometimes the people, they just Google directly to find some information. So it's not all the information on social media is correct. For example, if someone wants to lose the weight, they just look into the YouTube. And we, from our team, this is also interesting study that they found that, a lot of videos with a high rating and likes were not giving the healthy information to the people and assessed by the doctors as well. And nowadays, because of digital era, so there are digital interventions for healthcare improvement that are very important too. So we published 2 studies and where we evaluated that the people who are having the diabetes mellitus 1 and 2, what are the digital interventions they were using for medication adherence and what were, the more effective. So if you're interested, you can see more from these papers, and I also put the links below as well. So part of the data, the Taiwan was very active in organizing the hackathons and datathons as well, in collaboration with the different stakeholders, including the MIT as well. And the reason is to empower, to provide some solutions in the healthcare as well. This is the recent positioning paper we published in prestigious journal, where we are talking about the artificial intelligence can help for earlier medicine, for our primary prevention, for secondary prevention, and for the tertiary prevention as well. And it is interesting that the AI can help to do the primary prevention. Like for example, maybe there could be some early signs if someone is going to have a cardiac arrest or some fall risk, where we can detect earlier. And then for acute care, and also for chronic care as well. And so if you're interested, you can also read this paper more in detail, like how can AI make medicine more preemptive. During COVID, Taiwan took a lot of initiatives, and one of the key things, the big data played a great role along with the technology and proactive testing. So the response to COVID in Taiwan was very good in the beginning. When the pandemic happened, I controlled very well, and using this, the information. And one of the My Health Bank, you know, the important role was to make sure that the people are having the resources distributed. So My Health Bank is actually used for personal health records. For example, like if your patient are visiting to any hospital for dental visit or any other visit, they can able to have the information. But during COVID, because people were having problem to find the resources, you can see here in this picture that the people were misusing the resources, and sometimes when they need, they can't able to find the resources. So Taiwan introduced e-mask in My Health Bank, where the people they can able to use the app to book the face mask online. And the good thing was you don't have to go to the pharmacy and stay in a queue for a long time. So you can do from your home, and you can pick a nearby pharmacy to your near home. So good thing is that you can able to. And another thing is because you're using the national health insurance card, so one person can able to buy 3 masks per week at that time per regulations, and to ensure that everybody is getting the proper resources. So one person can buy more than that too. And the third thing was that when people are going to the queue, they have more risk to get the infection from other people. If somebody is in a queue, have the risk, and also to spend a lot of time in a queue and wait there. But having this feature helped them not need to be in the queue. You don't have to go there. Whenever they are after finish the work, they can pick up afterway, and they can pay online as well, and they can pick the nearby pharmacy too, and also to ensure that everybody have the reasonable amount of the mask as well. So it was convenient feature for them. This is also from our group. They published a paper about the online trends, and you can see here that this is when there was a pandemic, people were searching online about the different things, and also they were searching about the infectious disease, and the COVID was because there was sometimes there is no information available at all. So the different trends, search trends, and there's a lot of information when get together. The WHO introduced a term called infodemic, and this happened to see during the COVID situation. And infodemic is actually an overabundance of information where both online and offline. So there's a misinformation and disinformation which can be harmful to people, physical and mental health, and it increases stigmatization and threat, and about the different things. And so of course it's a lead to a poor observance of public health measures. So WHO took an action because a lot of misinformation was coming as well along with the group. So sometimes people not really understand which information they should rely on. For example, this is, in this, there says that, the ginger tea can help to treat COVID in 3 days. Well, it can't. And the coronavirus, and, these particular seeds can help and stuff like that. So, and for example, like turmeric and lemon can help to fight. So when people were having this information, they were just sharing through the WhatsApp group or different social media. And so in social media, the information is moving far faster than compared to the other media nowadays. So people were just without reading, sending text messages on different groups. In one message, like 50 people and stuff. So what the WHO did is they took an action. They talked to the social media industry and they asked them to revise their the system guidelines. And they asked WhatsApp to limit the message forwarding. So they reduced from 50 people or plus to 5 or 10, I think, something like that for now. So if you can check, you cannot forward to more than 5 or 10 people, I think, now. Before you were able to send the same message to 50 in one time. And same thing, they asked Facebook to also retract some of the information if it's not correct, to mislead, to avoid misleading. The reason it is because even though now people are going to forward the information to 5 people, but it will not be as faster moving as the people were sharing to 50 people at the one time. So WHO actually, intervene and partner with the WhatsApp, Facebook, and other social media apps as well. But social media is not always, so there are some good material on social media as well. So for example, when during COVID, the people who are working in the healthcare setting, they have to wear the mask for a long time. Sometimes if they're wearing just on their ears, then they're, all the ears, they get tired and, have rashes as well. So this is a video someone made on TikTok to show that how you can able to wear longer and without having hurting your ears too. I think the video maybe didn't play. I can share slides later. You can see in the picture, you can see here, instead of having the ears, she put on her hairs. And the reason is because then, it can help you and you don't feel pressure on that too. So WhatsApp, the WHO also made a group on WhatsApp for helping people to give them good information, and also, some other channels as well. These are the two book chapters we published about the Taiwan health information technology journey from flash drive to health cloud. So there was a time when in Taiwan, people were using the flash drive, the USB, and bringing their health information in the USB whenever they're visiting any hospital. And nowadays there's a health cloud. So they don't have to bring anything except their card, and then they just visit any hospital, and the doctors or any healthcare professional can access their information, and even the patient can access their information. And the second book chapter is about the My Data, My Decision in Taiwan health improvement journey from big data to open data. And in this chapter, we talk about that, because the data, it belongs to patients, it's a patient's information, so they have a right to access their own information too. And of course, it is very important as well, the patient should understand their information, that, they need to be aware of what is the meaning of this particular information. But the patients who are already aware of it, they knew what is this meaning for that information. So they have a right to ask for that. So we mention and talk about this in Taiwan's health improvement journey from big data to open data, that how Taiwan is moving from big data to open data side. So now there's a future and there are different kind of models. This is a book chapter we published in the nursing informatics book just recently. In this book chapter, we have a case study contributed from Taiwan. In this case study, we use the artificial intelligence-based model for monitoring pressure ulcer changes in bedridden patients. And we had the AI model developed, and we had the thermal camera there. The bedridden patients, usually, if they are on the bed for a long time, they need to change the positions, right? Because to avoid getting the pressure ulcers or bed sores. Otherwise, they need always sometimes the healthcare worker or someone to help them to change the positions. And how often we need to go and check the positions is sometimes very difficult as well and challenging. And sometimes we don't have enough resources and someone who is going and look after and change the positions. So in this case study, we developed a model, AI model, artificial intelligence model, and we had the camera, and that model automatically predicts and tell that when the patient should need to be rotating the position, moving the position, and then it will give alert to the nurse or the doctor, whoever is taking care of the patient, and then the nurse or doctor have they come at that time, so they don't have to unnecessarily visiting or checking the patients or moving around too. This is how the technology is advancing and helping, and this could be suitable for the aged care centers, but this is how the future care models are working, and going forward, we'll see their implications. This is a recent editorial we published. It's called Healthcare Artificial Intelligence, the Road to Hell is Paved with Good Intentions. This is very interesting editorial, and because nowadays, as I mentioned, that the artificial intelligence and big data is getting a lot of attention. when we are building any model on any data, we have to be very, very careful that how these models are generalizable. So in this editorial, we talk about that if you need to keep into consideration health equity, different races or ethnicities, and the different regions as well. So means if you develop any model on using one database, that should be generalizable to other database or other regions as well. So you need to consider all different kind of populations as well when you are developing any kind of model too. So this is very important going forward as well, which we have to take into consideration. So I would like to conclude here with Dr. Eric Topol's in his new book. He mentioned that people usually ask question that when we have a technology, we might be replacing the doctors or the healthcare professionals. Actually, he said that in AI medicine, we'll always need human backup. So means that there is no way that the humans are going to be replaced with the totally with the technology. You always need humans to also drive the technology as well. So in the healthcare is the same, that even though you have automatic systems, you need someone to still look after or take care of those systems as well. So this is a misconception. So people need to work together. So the humans and technology have to work together to improve the healthcare outcomes overall. I would like to thanks here again for giving me an opportunity to talk to you, and I'm happy to have question answers on that. And I really like this poster as well. Thank you, Dr. Dina, again.
Okay, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I am.
Okay. Yeah, so there are some references at the end as well, and feel free to look into the papers as well. And I'm also happy to have some question answers whenever you feel like, or you can drop me an email on this email address if you have any specific questions as well. And I'm also open now for questions too.
Okay. Hello, Prof. Usman. Thank you
Yes.
very much. I hope all the students enjoy this amazing presentation. And now Professor Usman Iqbal will answer some question. So we go to the first question from Rizkika. She wants to know, talking about too much information, I want to ask, how do we know we are consuming too much data or information, and how we deal with it? Thank you.
It's a very good question. So when we talk about too much data or too much information, I think there is no harm for having a lot of information. It's always good to have a lot of information. And of course, we need a lot of information too. But what it comes to is that how we are going to assess the information, how we are going to say that this is information which is useful information, and this is unnecessary information which is not going to be useful information. And this comes through with your experience and sometimes your own main basic knowledge as well. So let's say I share one of the examples with you about the COVID, when the people were posting on the social media and they were just giving some kind of the remedies and solutions. And I think it's a common sense, like, that if you look into those kind of information, you will feel like, oh, this is not going to be helpful. And I think this is just people are just sharing some information. So these kind of things are important. But on the other hand, there are some information which is very helpful too. Like I just shared you a TikTok video where, the one of the, I think, healthcare worker, she shared that instead of putting the mask and the bands and behind your ears, you can put on your hairs back if you have the hairs longer, so you don't have to feel like it's triggered for 20 hours or 24 hours. So this is very important, I think. So when it comes to this, I think it depends on your personal literacy as well, like how much you have a knowledge to. So that's why we have to empower people to let them understand, to make a difference between the knowledge information that what is available there. whether they should trust on the information or whether they should verify the information before. I hope I answer you this question.
How about Rizkika? Hello, Rizkika.
Yes. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, so
You're
great.
welcome.
Okay, and let's go to the second question from Hansa. The use of AI that diagnose a health problem sometimes only show the worst effect that usually occur without a detailed explanation. Then many people become afraid, stay away from it, and they prefer to self-diagnosis than trust to the AI. How do we as health promoters to get their trust again? Yes, because maybe many of the students are health promoters, so maybe they want to know their if the public have this kind of question or problem, how we deal it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also a very good and important question. Public trust is very important. The patient trust on the solutions. That's what I said, that, you know, nowadays when we are building any model or anything, we have to be very, very careful that how much the data is, you know, the data quality and the generalizable model is. So if someone has developed in silos, we can't really able to, you know, make it, you know, implement. So we need to validate those models according to the, you know, the generalizability of the different regions. So we have to keep into considering the different ethnicity inside the health equity and many different other factors to avoid maximum bias. So this is why it is very important to have the, you know, the data sharing, the open data, so the people can share from different regions and then they can able to generalize the model. So this is a very important question. And that's why we have to develop the generalizable models without, you know, having the maximum reduced bias into that.
So we also need maybe standard for AI model or application based on AI that will publish for the public, maybe. Yeah.
Yes, so there are standards as well. Like I just shared the Ms. Southwell's AI assurance framework in my slides as well. The thing is that you have to keep improving the models. So we cannot just build one model and just stay there. So in the data, because everything comes in, it has to be evolving with time. So if someone has developed some model 10 years back, it's not going to be useful nowadays because it has to be the advanced one. So it's the same thing like we use in our daily routine, any technology. After some times, then we have to advance them, right? Because it's automatically leave behind. And the same thing, like, you know, in a different regions, like there's a crisis of climate change. So the disease is also changing differently in different regions as well. So same thing in the healthcare as well. If someone is developing a model, it has to be keep updating, generalizable, validating in the different regions and testing and validating, testing, validating to see that how it's going to be, you know, more and more effective day by day.
Okay. Okay, how about Kansa? Do you still have any question or it's enough? Kansa?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Usman. And let's go to the third question from Hari. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Mr. Usman. For using of secondary data, is there a requirement for how many years it can be used of the research? Is 2 years, 5 years? And
Thank you for that. I think there is no limit. Even you have 6 months data, you can use it. It depends on your question, what you are going to ask from the data, right? So if you want to do a 10-year study, then of course you need a long cohort. But if you are going to check something short outcome, you know, within 6 months, you can use the short too. So it depends on your research question. And then based on that, you can able to use the data.
Okay. So based on your experience as editor journal, is it any preference that the longer the secondary data, it will increase the change to be published in the high impact journal, or is it depend on
Very
the
good.
diseases? Okay.
Very good question, Dr. Dina. So it depends again on the topic, the question. So for example, like if someone is going to have a COVID, then maybe, like 6 months data is enough for that particular, right? And most of the time you have seen in the last 2 years, a lot of journals publish the COVID related papers. Nothing else was going there. So every time it depends on the question, like what is it and how important and timely question is. If the question is hard these days and people are talking about that, then I think according to that, the data is important. So if someone has a 20 or 25 years data, but the question is not really appealing to the editors, then it won't make any sense. Sometimes the data is just for 2 years, but the question is very important. And then it will be very helpful for, like, for example, let's say the COVID vaccination, right? So if people wants to see assess something, maybe it's a short-term data, right? It's not long-term because nobody had this 3 years back, right? It's just 2 years. So the things like that. So it depends on the question for editors as well. So editors don't really mind. Yeah, the one thing which important is about the patient number of patients, the subjects, how much you have the sample size of the study. So always keep in mind whenever you design a sample size, the study design, you always should keep a good sample size.
Okay, thank you. How about Mr. Hari? Are you have other question?
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I like your Harry Bentley.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Usman. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Let's go to the fourth question from Vistra. In the start slide, Professor Usman explained about data must be reliability, usability. And the question is, are all data in the international health system, for example, in UNICEF, who definitely reliable, definitely can be used to study, or what kind of data should be?
A very good question, Istra. It is very good. They usually, because they are the prestigious organizations, so they always ensure the data quality is good. So if you're going to have a data from UNICEF or other prestigious organizations like this, so I think it's a good to use, and you can rely on the data, and you can publish into the good international journals as well. So yeah, because they are the prestigious organizations, so they're always trying their best to improve the data quality and to capture the good information.
Okay. How about Vistra? Are you have other question? Hello, Vistra. You need to unmute.
Enough, Budina.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Usman.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's go to the fifth question from Vilda. What are the obstacles faced by Taiwan in developing a sophisticated information system as it is today? It is possible the same as in Indonesia. Currently, Indonesia is heading toward the digital era, but unfortunately, the system that was built, it's not used. It only ends up in research or report. If indeed the obstacles are the same, how will Taiwan go through this crisis?
It's a very good question. And Taiwan started in 1995 technology. And I think Indonesia starting now last 2-3 years or in the last 5 years. So is
14.
2014.
For the NHI, yeah, for the NHI.
Let's say 10 years. Yeah. So there is a huge gap between 20 years challenges and nowadays challenges. Now people are more well-versed in technology. They use more mobile phones. Everybody, most of the time, they have smartphone, they have internet. But before that time, there were very few people, like in Taiwan even, So that time there were different challenges, and now I feel like going forward there are different. Every day when we change, the technology is changing, so we have challenges different. Nowadays we have challenge about the social media, we have some other challenges as well. See, because the people, they are spending time on social media, getting a lot of information on the social media. So back to your question on the if the Taiwan and Indonesia challenges same, yeah, some of the challenges might be same. For example, sharing the data information. At that time, the people in Taiwan, they were reluctant to share the information because with the time you have to make your systems more robust. You have to trust on the policies, and the patient have to trust on their doctors and the policymakers, that whether the information they are sharing is going to be used in a proper way. So the same thing, I think, in Indonesia might be the challenges where people maybe nowadays when they're using on social media, they're feeling comfortable sharing the information on social media. They might be comfortable sharing the information with their healthcare providers as well, right? But there could be a divide between them too. And because now more and more people are using technology, so they are understanding about technology. In Taiwan that time, there were not many people who were using technology, but now with time you can see that they are now using my health bank, my health record, right? So they have already the mobile apps where you can able to access all the information too. So yeah, it depends on the particular settings, but I think there are still a lot of challenges which are common. For example, like interoperability, where if one hospital is using one system, the other hospital is using one system, so they might not be able to talk to each other because they don't want to share the information. So I give an example that even though they can share the information, but maybe the people don't want to share, right? It's like a bureaucracy from the government. So in Taiwan, did all these challenges encountered, but they also mitigate those challenges with time and try to improve this. And now you can see that they have the Odyssey, where people, they can share the information and going forward. I hope I answer.
Okay, how about Filda? Do you still have any question?
No, thank you.
Respond to-
Thank
from-
you, Miss. Thank you, Professor Usman. I hope Indonesia will not give up to develop the sophisticated information system like Taiwan. Thank you.
Yes, we still learn and develop, and doing the process to gain the ideal ideal concept of health information system and the health quality data.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a good initiatives going on in Indonesia, and I saw some people, my colleagues here from Australia, also working with Indonesia
Yeah.
in the digital health, and even myself too. So a lot of things going on. And the good thing is because you learn the lessons from other settings, and then you don't revise the same mistakes in other settings, right? So this is the good thing.
Yes, that's great. Okay, let's go to the sixth question from Julia. She asked about who fill out the medical record in the My Health Bank app. If every person needs to fulfill by themselves, how does the government or any other stakeholders that need the information make sure that it is true and accurate information? And what suggestion will you give for citizens to differentiate the true and hoax information in social media? Thank you.
Okay. So for the My Health Bank, it automatically pulled the information from the My Health records. So it means if any patient visiting any hospital, the doctor who record in the electronic health record will automatically be going to the cloud, to the My Health Bank. So they don't have to do anything by themselves. Question to your social media information, to differentiate, I mentioned earlier, like, it depends on, it's very difficult, I understand, but it also depends on your personal, like how much you understand the information you can able to trust or not, right? Because there's all kind of information. So it's up to you to pick which one you want to, rely on or you want to test on. It's the same thing when you're going to any restaurant and you want to eat food. So you pick what you want to eat, right? And because you feel more comfortable with, right? You just don't pick randomly anything or don't trust on that too. So it's the same thing in the health information or other information as well when it comes. So it's like, we call UC literacy, you need like a little bit more, infodemic or, like digital literacy about the information. So you need to able to understand what the information you should be trusting on.
Okay. Okay. How about Julia? Do you have any question or response from Professor Usman answers?
Yes, thank you, Professor Usman. It's clear enough for me. Thank you.
You're welcome, Julia.
Okay, let's go to the seventh question from Evita. Do all publications such as journal have accurate and reliable data? And which sources are very reliable for now, in your opinion?
So yes, most of the prestigious or international journals, they have the accurate information and they ask for the accurate information. But you have to understand that editor cannot just go back and check every single paper and the data, but there is a consent form and different forms when author is submitting the paper. They fill that form and giving consent that the information is reliable. One of the recent case happened in the journal Lancet and in other big journal is where they retracted the paper back is from the very good organization, but they just feel like the data, the one they use the data was not really the data. It's kind of fabricated outcome they make, like when you do this one. So, and when the journal, they double check that because they cannot check every single, they randomly check some of them. So if they find something, they can retract the paper and they can also give a plenty to the researchers as well. So there's a big plenty of that because they are actually trying to manipulate and sabotage the research. So this is a huge, big consequences for that. So yes, to your question, there are a number of forms for the consent. At the same time, now journals are also asking for submitting the data or the raw data. So if somebody wants to retest the same question, so they can able to see that. If they find something different, then there will be consequences for that too.
Okay. And how about the sources that maybe are very reliable for now, in your opinion, that can use by the student to learn or conduct research based on secondary data set?
I think if you want to work on the hospital data, then Mimic database is one from MIT, Harvard. So it's an ICU database and it's publicly available. So you can, because they started this initiative already. So if you want to work on other level sources is like the one comment I had before, the UNICEF data somebody mentioned, and the WHO and the World Bank data as well. So if you want to do some research, I think you can work on the WHO, UNICEF, or the World Bank database, which is a good one. And if you want to work on the specific hospital database, then the Mimic database from MIT is the one good one I can say that you can able to trust and to start working on. And then there are also some publicly database available too. If you Google, you can able to find some. So because it's a publicly available, so you can able to access that information and then you can able to play with that and to do some research and questions. And of course, you can able to publish as well if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I think we lost the connection, Dr. Lina. Are you there?
Oh, hello, Prof. Usman.
Yes, we lost your connection before. So
Oh, okay,
can you hear
okay.
now? No,
Okay. So how about in Australia? Do you have any suggestion data that available by Australian government or Australian institution that also available, open, or can easily to access by the student?
No, so far there's no data like this available for researchers because still a lot of work going on in that too. And also Australia also doing a lot of digitalization as well. So I think it's like in Indonesia too. So a lot of manual things available, yeah.
Okay, so we can learn from Taiwan actually, as that's already starting 30 years ago. Okay. Okay. For the question in chat box is already finished. For other student, do you have any question? You can raise your hand and directly ask the question to Professor Usman. Maybe related publication also and related the data. Yes, because Professor Usman have a lot of experience as an editor in prestigious journal. And some of the students are PhD students who prepare the publication also. And maybe this presentation can inspire them to use secondary data, not just primary data sets. Okay, if no other question, then thank you, Professor Usman Iqbal, for answering all those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and maybe we can take a picture together before we conclude the meeting. Okay, for all the students, would you open the camera? Okay. Okay, page number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Page number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are many students. Okay. For all the students, don't leave the meeting because I have some announcement related the certification, the electronic certification. Okay, so this concludes the meeting. Thank you all for the attending, and we hope you learned and enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much, Professor Usman. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, everyone. Waalaikumsalam. Bye.
Okay, I will share. So for the electronic certificate issuance, please go to the link that mentioned in this slide, and please write your email address correctly because the e-certificate will be sent to your email address, and the link is active for only 60 minutes after this meeting. Okay, thank you so much for all the students who attending this meeting. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Apakah boleh meminta materinya?
Gimana, Bu?
Materi Prof.
Oh ya, nanti insya Allah saya mintakan Profit. Sepertinya ada rekaman YouTube-nya juga.
Iya, ada.
Sudah dicatat ya linknya ya. Saya leave dulu kalau sudah. Sudah ya. S.id visiting 1. Adik-adik sama Bapak Ibu semua sudah dicatat ya linknya ya. Coba saya tunggu.
Sudah, Bu Dina.
Ya. 2 menit. Saya tunggu 2 menit lagi ya. Baik, saya tutup dulu ya. Terima kasih. Sampai jumpa di perkuliahan berikutnya.
Bu Dina, terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Sama-sama.